Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Regina Kirkendall. I'm coming to you with another Chronicles of a Favorite Woman moment. It is March Messenger, you all. And let me tell you something. I tell y'all every time I end up having technical difficulties, that means the show is going to be powerful. And today and this Sunday is no different. You all have tuned into the other episodes, and then tonight is going to be even better. I have a friend of mine from California. So, I mean, his time is different than our time. But you know what? We're here. We're here. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. So, you all know it ain't going to be too much that can get me down. So, Father, in the name of Jesus, we just thank you. We praise you. We give you glory, honor, and praise. I thank you. I thank you for the show that is about to be presented tonight. I thank you for the speaker that's coming, not just touching him, but touching his family, Lord, and everything that's related to him. I thank you for the powerful testimony that he will share, that this will be a blessing to all who are designed to hear this on the live or whether it's the replay. And it's in Jesus' name, we just ask you to just come ahead of us, remove all the blockage, and make them blessings. And it's in Jesus' name. Amen. So, with that being said, the for guest I'm bringing in tonight, like I said, hails from California. I don't think he was born there, but that's where he is now. And I'm looking forward to having him here. And I'm just not going to continue to delay anymore. I want to present to some and introduce to others Mr. Lawerence Darrington. Thank you, thank you, thank you for accepting the assignment.
You're welcome. The pleasure's all mine.
Yes,
It
yeah,
is.
thank you. So, three questions: who you are, what do you do, and why do you love doing what you do?
My name is Lawerence Darrington. I'm 57 years old. I was born in Panama, but I was raised in the military in the United States when I was 2 years old. And I've been in California since I was 13 and I've been here ever since. So I call
Wow.
California home.
Wow, 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 wow. That's the what the shaky state. That's what they said. Well, that's what I say. I'm just messing. I'm just messing. I've actually had the pleasure of being in California. I went to San Francisco, as a matter of fact. It was on my layover, believe it or not, when I was flying to Australia. So San Francisco was my place. Actually, that's where my son was at the time, and I was on my way to go see my son because he was with his
Great
father.
young man. He was raised right.
Thank you. Well, to God be the glory. To God be the glory. So, with that being said, I'm going to ask you three questions: who you are, what do you do, and why do you love doing what you do?
Yes. Well, my name is Lawerence Darrington. I am a freelance self-published author. Uh, my story come from humble beginning, if you want to call it that. I didn't grow up. I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. It wasn't no walk in the park. You know, my life of ups and downs and hurdles and good days and bad days. And my father did the best he could to raise us. And from the age of maybe 14, I was on my own and I lived life. I did a lot of things in my life I'm not proud of, but I ain't ashamed of none
Mm,
of it.
that's right. Before I started the show in 2024, God pointed me in different directions. And one of the things I've learned is no one can tell their story like you could tell your own story.
Very
And so I've always I've really honed into when people tell me their story to give me, if you had to put a title to your story, what would your life, what would it be? And you said yours would be Hood Chronicles.
yes,
Why?
because I grew up in the hood. I'm comfortable in the hood. My mentality was hood until I elevated, until I grew, I matured, and found myself on a different playing field and dealing with life on a different level. Because being humble isn't an easy job.
Mm-mm.
Very hard to do. A lot of people don't understand that because a lot of people don't know how to swallow their pride, admit they're wrong, and walk away from a bad situation before it gets worse. The penitentiary is full of people that couldn't do that.
Mm. Repeat what you just said about the penitentiary.
The penitentiary is full of people that don't know how to humble themselves, don't know how to swallow their pride.
Wow, that is deep. That
Very,
is deep.
it's
Now
true.
I know a little bit of your I know a little bit of your story. So I want to go into you mentioned about you and your brother, your mother, uh,
Yes,
in New York. Could you go into details about that real quick?
that's a story probably within itself. Sometimes when I meet someone and they ask me about my mother, my whole demeanor changes. My mother left me and my brother in New York City Central Park with a note pinned to my shirt when I was 2 years old. I still have the note. It said, "My name is Lawerence Darrington. I am 2 years old. I need to get to this address, which is my grandmother's address." Red Cross picked us up. Stayed with Red Cross for a couple months. They located my grandmother. My grandmother took custody of us until my father came home from Vietnam. I was about 7 years old. I remember the day he walked in the room and I knew exactly who he was. He jumped up in the arm and said, "Bob,
Wow.
Dad." I'll never forget the day. I remember like it was yesterday. So that's a burden that I kind of carried around my whole life. No one probably could change that or take it away from me, but you know, we all have a story we don't read out loud.
Mm, I love that. That's true.
Very true.
That's, that's true. As a result of that traumatic experience, what did it lead to for you?
Hmm. It led to hatred for my mother. Um, Never wanted to resolve it. I mean, I had people in my life tell me, "What you just your mother, you should love her." Mother's job is something that's never ending, something you feel, something you grew up attached to, not something you just wake up and say, "That's my mother." So it's just that's just my truth.
Mm-hmm.
People have tried to change that, but I remember one time a friend of mine kept trying to get me to go talk to a therapist about it, and I went ahead maybe about a year ago. I tried,
Awesome.
didn't work. When I realized I was smarter than the therapist, you know, me being 57 and him being 28, don't even know anything about life, and he was an Asian. So I felt like we had nothing to relate that was relatable for him to even help me with. So I walked away feeling the same way.
Mm. So to this day, that's where you're at.
That's where I'm at.
I tell people there's no shame in going to a therapist. Lord knows I've been through my share of therapists and looking for another one as we speak. Well, what I've learned about therapy is I had to ask myself why I'm there and what am I trying to get out of going to therapy? That was my main thing. And I'm 53. So, I was younger when I did my therapist like a few years ago, but I knew when looking for a therapist, I needed a few things. One, you have to be experienced or overcomer of traumatic experiences. Two, we have to be relatable. So that means you need to be a man of God because I'm a woman of God. You need to be a person of God because I'm a person of God. But then I need to make sure you understand that even though I got saved, I was still addicted to sex and I was still going through my process. So I needed somebody because you can't deliver me if you've never been delivered. You can't understand if you not walked through my shoes. And when I found it, I was called around. I've been through like quite a few therapists until I finally found one that I was comfortable with. And when I found, or when I ran, or when God led me to my therapist, he was in a wheelchair. And I remember going to the office and I didn't think nothing of it. I'm just in there, filling out my paperwork and whatever. And I remember speaking to the receptionist. She was like, trust me, you are not going to be disappointed with this therapist. I said, okay. So I saw the guy walk, wheeling in. Well, I didn't think nothing of it. And they said, I want to introduce you to your therapist. And I was like, if nobody understands trauma, that one right there understands trauma because he used to walk and now he's wheelchair bound. And as I got like I first went in there with him, I was still feeling a little because it didn't matter to me if it was a man or a woman, as long as could relate in Christ. I was like, no, I don't think this is gonna be mine. But then as as he got more comfortable with me, I got more comfortable with him. And then I found out he's an overcomer of molestation. He's an overcomer of sexual abuse. And I was like, jackpot! That's what I needed. I say all this to say this, that I get what you're going with your first therapist, but continue to search. Find out what it is that you're trying to get out of going to therapy. What is your goal? And then make criteria as to what it is that you will need to get you through your therapy. And those were mine. I needed someone who was saved, who's been through traumatic experience, they can understand. And if I didn't have those, then I can't deal with it. So I say all that is, whenever you decide to move forward with your search, find out what it is why you going there and what are you going to need to get you there. So that's just my, suggestion, but it works. It works. So the fact that you tried the therapy, I commend you, first of all, for trying that, because sometimes it can become a pride or ego issue to even want to go to therapy in the first place.
Because sometimes, man.
Yeah, because, as men, I ain't gonna say because I'm not a man, but my experience is that y'all vulnerability, you're very protective of it. And I ain't about to be weak in front of in front of just anybody, but you gotta trust somebody, And like I said, when you go in there with a mission, when you go in there with a purpose, it just changes the whole trajectory of it all. So I just wanted to pass that on to you, as you move forward, because it'll happen. The fact that you took that step that you did speaks volumes, and I commend you for it. I really do. I really do. I'm sure that situation have left a taste in your mouth. And you mentioned that your father was in military. He's in Vietnam. My father was in Vietnam. And anyway, I'll just leave that right there. But he did the best that he could, you said. But what kind of life was that for you and your brother?
I think it put us in a position where we just never grew up feeling loved. Mm-hmm. I mean, I told a story once about my father, to where I never told my father I loved him. I never knew how. So one particular time, I was dating a female friend of mine, and we was having this conversation. She said, "Why didn't you tell your father you loved him?" I was like, "I don't know. I wasn't raised like that." Mm-hmm. You should tell your father you love him. I said, "For what?" "Trust me. Just try." So I would try to tell my father I love him, and it would never come out. I mean, I tried for 6 months. It would never come out. I tried, and she would always ask me. And I got tired of her asking. So I would pick up the phone. "Hey, Papa, all right, man, I'm checking." I hang up. Couldn't do it. And one particular time, I went out of town, and I had mustered up enough pride in myself to call my father and say, "Hey, Dad, I just want you to know I love you." He said, "You ain't got to tell me that shit, Tito. I know that." He started laughing. So he said, I'll be back in town tomorrow. So when you come back in town, buy me a beer. I said, "I'll do that." So I hung up the phone. My heart was beating fast. I felt like I had to swallow my pride to say it, but I felt a little better though. Good. So I flew back to LA the next day, and I went to my father's house. And I got to my father's house. It was an ambulance from my father's house. I went in the house and my father was dead. So I only had one time in my whole life. Father, I love him. That always bothered me. So I take it upon myself to tell my children every day. I had to break that cycle every day, especially my boys. I love them. I remember I told this story at my first book signing, and my kids was looking at me. They was crying, they had tears in their eyes. And my sons nodded because they understood. And from this day forward, I've always tell my sons I love them. They tell me they love me back. Because we as men, we got to tell our sons that same. They need to know they love too. It's just my truth.
You say you have children. How many children do you have?
I have 6 kids, 3 girls, 3 boys.
Wow, awesome. And the fact that you make it a point, and I love that because you broke the cycle. You came through it, but pride is not easy, but it's necessary.
Necessary.
And I'm so happy that you humbled yourself to even try, and then you finally did it. And then in the end, it served its purpose, even though it was sad. But it served its purpose, because what if you didn't do it? You know what I'm saying? What if you didn't do it? But you did. Not only did it serve the purpose of you letting your father know, but also build the foundation of the children that was coming afterwards or there, to make sure that they always felt love. And I'm trying not to cry, but it's the truth. It's really the truth. All I can say is, thank you. I commend fathers who will humble themselves, because if we don't humble ourselves for somebody else, no one else, we gonna do it for our children.
Yes.
Oh, we gonna do it for our children now. We're gonna do it. And so I appreciate the fact that you do that. And let me ask you this. Each time that you started doing that with your children, did you feel a sense? What sense did you feel doing that? Now that you went from not saying that, not saying it, and then once you started, it's like you didn't stop.
No, I never stopped. I teach my kids that love is an action word. Anybody can tell you I love you. They can look you in your face. Not even mean it. Love is an action word. When somebody tell you I love you, pay attention to their actions. My children know I love them. I give my life for them.
Beautiful. I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned that, about your mom, and I won't get too deep into that, but your grandmother. How long did you stay with your grandmother? Because I know you was at the Red Cross.
About 5 years.
5 years.
Yes, okay. My father was in Vietnam for about 5 years.
Wow. And what was that experience like?
Church every day, walking to church in the 100-degree weather in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
And not fall asleep.
You better not.
Very strict. Love her to death.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, usually traumatic experiences causes other root issues. You mentioned about having a 5th grade education up until you was in high school, and you've had some brush with the law, and it was actually there that you got your GED and you learned how to write your name. Talk about that for a little bit.
Well, like I said, I was passed through school because the teachers had basically given up on me. So they would just pass you to the next grade just so they don't have to deal with you that year. Like I said, I was passed from 5th grade probably all the way to high school. And like I said, when I went to prison was when I started self-teaching myself how to read. Why? Is because in jail, the only form of communication with the outside world is to be able to write letters back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it upon myself to start writing letters. And I started reading dictionary. I started, started reading. The first book I read was Out of Baby Roots.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you realize, I want to do that. I want to write like that one day. I want to be able to put people in the mindset of being involved in the character and everything, all the emotion that goes involved. That's how I got involved in writing. And I started writing letters went to short stories went to novels. And I used to write like maybe 10 letters a day to different people, family, friends, old female friends. And I used to get so much mail that they used to be like, mail call. Everybody used to be jealous because I was like 10, 20 letters every other day. I was getting letters. I wrote everybody. And that's how I got better at the things I was ashamed of.
What were you ashamed of?
Not knowing how to read at that time. And my wake up call was when I was in prison. There was this older gentleman. He might have been in his 50s, 60s. And he asked this guy to read this letter for him. And he was reading this letter to him. He was sitting, he had this look on his face. He was happy. He was emotional. And I was like a little bit puzzled. And then the guy said, "All right, why are you doing it?" He said, "Pops don't know how to read." And that didn't sit right with me. I didn't want that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I could see myself handing somebody a piece of paper and telling me what's on this paper. It just bothered me, and I felt a little sad about the whole situation. And he was at an age where he basically gave up. It was just who he was.
Right.
I was still young, and I was like, so I wanted to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on a mission to teach myself how to read. And I took my GED in prison. I started taking college courses in prison. I started writing, and the more I wrote, the better I got. When I got out, I published my first book.
That is experience is life's best teacher. And I can
Let me share something with you.
please.
A couple years ago, I had wrote this. I seen this article, and it was very relatable because of my situation when it comes to reading. So I had wrote this article, and it was about this man. It was about a man named James. James wanted to start a business, so he realized he wanted to do something with his life. So he went to the bank, and he walked in. He said, "Do you need a janitor?" They said, "Oh, yes, we do." So they gave him an application, and he began to sit there and he looked at it. He put the pen on the table and he sat there. The manager walked out the office, came back 20 minutes later, and he said, "Are you finished?" He said, "No." He said, "Why not?" He said, "I'm sorry, I can't read the application." He said, "You can't read the application?" He said, "No." He said, "But I can't hire you if you can't read the application." He said, "But if you give me a chance, I promise you I'll work hard." He said, "I'm sorry, I can't." So James left the building. He walked home. He thought about it. Held his head high. Got up. He got him a mop, a broom, and a dustpan, and a bucket. And he went from door to door, business to business, and he started cleaning. A year later, he opened up a janitorial service. 5 years later, he had 27 employees. 10 years later, he had 100 employees. He was a big, thriving business within the next 10 years. As he got older, he retired. He wanted to reinvest and give back. So he built a library. So they had this big celebration in town. And as that was happening, they named it after him. And as he got up to the mic and he spoke, as he walked off stage, he looks and sees the manager to the bank. The manager of the bank walked up to him and said, "Wow, I'm so proud of you." And he reached out and shook his hand. He said, and you did all this without even knowing how to read. I said, yes, sir.
Mm.
He said, do you know what you would have accomplished if you would have knew how to read? He said, yes. I'd have been the janitor of your bank. You have a nice day.
I love that.
Hey, that man believed in himself. So sometimes, you got to
Oh
take the opposite road.
wow. That is a phenomenal story. Woo!
Posted on that on my page a couple of times, and got a lot of good reviews. But sometimes in life, when one door shut, another one open. You got to embrace it.
Exactly.
Don't force it. Don't fit, don't force.
With that being said, how important in believing in yourself, how important is that?
It's the number one factor in succeeding.
Mm.
Because when everybody else give up on you, that's okay. As long as you don't give up on yourself. As long as you believe in what you're doing, that's all that matters. It ain't gonna happen when you want it to. It's gonna happen when it's supposed to. As long as you
Mm.
never give up. Dreams are made of things just like this. When you look outside and you see all these nice, fancy, expensive, extravagant things, they make that stuff. And you can have it. You just gotta dig deep, work hard, never give up, believe in yourself, and it's gonna happen when it's supposed to.
Mm.
Think big, dream big, make big moves, but be humble at the same time.
Mm. And since we're talking about that, how important is humility?
Once again, it's the number one factor. You don't want to ever get big headed. Once you start thinking outside the box, getting big headed, thinking you better, it usually falls apart. You have to be humble.
Hmm. I have a statement. I want you to respond on it. Free is me. I hear that a lot. What's your status? What's your thoughts on that?
Say, free is me.
Yes.
Free is me.
In other words, people like things to get things free. Then some people don't want to work for it. They just feel like they could take the easy route out, and if they can get it for free, they do it. And I have two sons. I have a younger son now, and I'm like, son, everything glitter is gold, baby.
Mm.
And I don't get me wrong, I love a free a meal, I love a free this, but the things that I really want, I have to grind. And it's the grind is very important. And there are some things I don't want for free. So that's what I said, free is me. So with that, knowing what you know now about my statement, what is your opinion on that? What's your stance on what I just said?
Like that's almost like the same as support. If we don't support each other, who will? I
Mm.
mean, I've run into situations where I would meet someone and say, I would like to give you my book. They'd be like, I want to buy your book. And I'd be like, for real? Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So that's how I come about it. When I see people that's doing certain things, I want to support them too. I want to support
Mm.
them too because that's how it happens. And it's crazy that I remember I was at a book signing once and I was talking to these two women and they kind of looked at me and walked away. And then this other lady walked up to me and she said, "Don't worry about them. They are not your market."
Mm.
And I was having a conversation when I was saying, how sometimes it's hard that family and friends be the last people to support you to that degree. He said, "Don't worry about that. 'Cause there are always going to be more strangers than family and friends. That's your market.
Mhm. Exactly.
Because usually family and friends want you to give it to them. They want you to show them some love. They
Mhm.
want you to come up. Sad but true. That's why when
Mhm.
I see somebody doing something, I want to pay top dollar. When somebody buy my book, I know it's worth it. They buy it.
Mm.
So just
Mm.
believe in what you're doing. Don't sell yourself short. Don't cut yourself short. Don't let nobody shortchange you. Know your worth.
I love that. Know your worth. Hmm. You mentioned about having the book, and knowing some of the back end of your story. To your passions is reading and writing, and cooking. How did you get into cooking?
How I got into cooking was, I think one day I had a friend of mine who who had made me something called chuck wagon beans, right? I
Chuck
remember that
wagon
thing.
what?
It was called chuck wagon beans. Something
Okay.
I was like, these is kind of good. Really, realistically, it really wasn't, but it was some barbecue beans, and they had bell peppers and onions in it, barbecue
Oh
sauce.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
had pineapples in it and some ground beef. And I was like, this is good. I said, show me how to make this. That was the first thing I learned how to make. And from there, it was just like, I started experimenting, making all kinds of things. And then I would cook for my children.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got into presentation. So, like my kids would be like, oh, daddy, make me a pretty plate. So I'll make my daughter this pretty plate. And I would separate everything and, make it look all nice and majestic.
Right. Right.
So, and I got better and better. So it just became therapy for me, you know.
Hmm. Hmm. So you learned how to write and read in prison. You wrote your first book. Now you have a book that's currently out right now, or
Yes.
the one that I got introduced to you about. Tell us about that book. How did it even come to play?
The Karma Club was came from a dream. You ever have a dream and you wake up and you forgot what you dreamt about?
Mm-hmm.
I used to have these crazy dreams, and I would wake up in the middle of the night. I used to keep a pen and paper next to my bed. I used to write them down, and then I wake up the next day and read what I wrote, and then it would come back to the forefront of what I dreamt about. And then I used to have this crazy dream, and at the time I was with my first two kids' mother, and I asked her a question. I said, have you ever been raped? And she was like, why would you ask me that? I said, I had this crazy dream. And didn't answer the question. Probably maybe about 2, 3 weeks later, she said, yeah. And I said, it's crazy. I had this crazy dream about it. And she kind of told me a little bit without going into too much details of what happened. And it just kind of came to life. And I had this idea. And I started writing this story. And then it just bloomed into and cultivated the story just called the Karma Club. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't interview a bunch of people. I just came up with this story, and it took off. It grew, elevated, and the more I got into writing about it, and I had a cousin named Donald who I was telling my story to. He was like, "That's a great idea." He was real spiritual church type,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and he gave me these great ideas, and he steered me in the right direction because he also was a writer, and I had to finish the project. And once I finished it, and he looked at it, he said, "I think you owe me something." And I self-published it. I did everything in-house myself, from the cover to page. And when I published it, I originally published my book in 2014.
Okay.
I sold 50 copies, and then kind of got back to doing hustling, working, grinding. And then in 2020, a couple people kept saying, "What happened to that book you had?" I was like, "I got it." And I kind of put it on the shelf. I said, "Man, that really was a good book. You really need to put that book out here." I thought about it, and then another friend of mine, uh, Jazzy Melina West, she said, "You should reread your book." And I was like, "Reread it for what?" So I reread my book, and it was kind of outdated. So I reread it, rewrote it, and I republished it. And I republished it, and I dropped it at the beginning of 2020. And up to date, I sold 7,000 copies.
Wow.
No book,
Self-publishing?
self-published.
Wow.
No
What?
book, just doing
Woo!
signing podcasts, just really grinding. doing infant commercials every 2 weeks, really pushing the brand.
That is, whew. All right. For those of you all who got a book
You
that's
got a
in your
book
spirit,
club, and you
yeah,
want a good
book.
book you want to read, I guarantee you will not regret it. Give me the opportunity to blow your mind.
Yes,
Book club will make you sad,
yes.
will make you happy, will make you sad. It's gonna draw you in ways you will never imagine. Because remember, if we don't support each other, who will? But you better
Exactly.
rest, you better rest until your good is better, and your better is best.
I know that's right. And you know what? What's nice, ladies and gentlemen, is that I have copies of it ready to ship to you. Mr. Darrington has provided me copies. So if you are interested, look up the Karma Club. Look it up. And if you're interested, all you have to do is DM me, give me your address, and I will get it to you. First of all, you self
Boom,
publish your
boom,
book.
boom. Self-published.
Self-publish a book, 7,000 copies. There's nothing that cannot be done. There's nothing that God
Nothing.
can't do, and nothing that you, because it's not just God now. God can do whatever he can do with you, but you got to put in the WORK, the
Uh-oh.
work. You got to grind. You got to grind. And I heard, as you mentioned, that first of all, it started way back from when you decided to take accountability and responsibility for where you were lacking, which was reading and writing and stuff. So you took, and you know what? God has a way of placing us in situations where one, he can talk to us, two, he'll give you opportunities to figure it out. And three, for you, what do you want to do with it? I'll bless you, but what work you gonna put into it now? You want me to bless you, but what work are you going? And I see how you did it. You started off by reading a dictionary. It started off with another person, but you made the decision that you wanted better
Yes.
because you're a perfect example that regardless of what life throws at you, you can make the most out of that situation
Yes.
if you choose to do so.
Yes.
And look where you are now. I mean, reading and writing and rewrote the book, resell the book, 7,000 copies self published. And I heard what you said when you first got the book out, 2014, you sold 50 copies and you kind of shelved it for a while. And then someone said, hey, you need to reread it. You need to reread it. And not only did you reread it, you rewrote it and you republished it. And now you're at 7,000 copy strong. Whew. Mm. Now, let me reset the room. This is Fachina Kirkconnell. You're tuning into another episode of Chronicles of a Favorite Woman. My name is Fachina, like I said, and I have the pleasure of having a friend of mine from California. First of all, I just want to thank him because the time zone is 3 hours apart. And believe it or not, we've been trying to do this for a while, and look at us now. So thank you for taking the time out. But this is Lawerence Darrington, an author, a publisher. Oof, he's just a blessing, a blessing. Starting off for feeling a rejection, abandonment, whatever that case may be, and it doesn't matter what you got going on. It's all about what you want. It's not where you came from. It's where you're going,
Mm.
where you're at, and where you're
Yeah.
going. And
Control the narrative.
yes,
Always control the narrative. I
ex-
always say that, regardless of what people say, regardless of where you come from, where you've been, what matters is who you are and where you're going.
mm,
Remember that.
and believing in yourself,
Believe
honey.
in yourself.
And believe it in yourself. I love how even when you talked about not loving, you're not saying that I love you, even to your father. And when you did, it was everything what happens in God's design time. But as a result of it, you got to tell him that you love him before he took his place, you know, and before he transitioned. And as a result of it, the lesson is, teaching your children,
Yeah.
making sure your children knows that they are loved, that you love them, that you respect them, you honor them, and you're there for them,
Yes.
you know. And I would say, my question I want to ask you is, what are the lessons you have people who are listening right now and they've gone through, maybe going through, or know someone who is. What lessons have you learned throughout your process? Your story is Hood Chronicles. You got some stories. You got some chronicles. From those chronicles, what are some of the, I would say, hard, or yeah, I would say the most challenging lessons of all the challenges you've had? What are the nuggets that you've received from them?
My main one to me was, I shared with you earlier, was it always kept me out the way and out of harm's way and out of trouble, was I always said, if I don't feel comfortable taking my children there, maybe I shouldn't be there. That works for me. It always keeps me out the way, out of harm's way. It's, life has a way of putting you in awkward situations at the wrong, at certain point in your life. You could be at the wrong place, wrong time, and ended up in a bad situation. And I tell my son that all the time. One bad decision can affect the rest of your life. Hanging out with the wrong people. So you have to learn how to surround yourself with people going in the direction that you want to go in, especially if you want to be successful.
Wow. What nuggets could you provide for someone who've gone through? Well, I'm kind of leery of asking this question, but when it comes to your mother, have you forgiven her?
No.
That's an honest answer.
I don't think I can. I've had people my whole life tell me what I should be doing. You ain't never. How can you tell somebody how to do something that haven't even walked in your shoes, haven't felt your pain, your hurt, your disappointment, your abandonment, but they telling you how you should feel?
Yep, I totally get it. I'm going to tell you this because I do know that feeling of rejection and abandonment, especially coming from a parent, that the forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. So that would be my nuggets of wisdom for you, because remember, you have children.
I know.
It's for you, and it's so you can come out of that bondage, because whether you believe it or not, you're in bondage with it. And it'll take time. I'm not going to tell you that's an easy thing. No, but it's necessary. And just like you, and I'm going to tell you your motivation, just like how you were able to muster up the nerve to tell your father you love him, it will come in his timing. And
yeah, that was no easy job.
Oh, I know it wasn't. I know it wasn't. That's why I'm using that as your example and as your encouragement. If you were able to do that, the time will come in his timing. I definitely would suggest therapy. Go through your weeding process, because that one you had earlier. I'm sorry, I'm so with you on that. That 28-year-old cannot tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. So I will, and that will come in time. But as you go along in therapy and you continue to write, you love to write, and I'm not sure if you're writing about your experience with your mother or not. Just a suggestion. Been there, still going through there, and done that. But I had to get to a point where I had to find peace, because I wanted my peace, and I was tired of giving my peace to someone else. And so just an encouragement. And like I said, I know it's not easy. I know it's not. And sometimes we get comfortable in that. We do it so long that we become comfortable. And
I became comfortable with.
Yeah. But it's toxic.
To where I just deal with it.
Yeah.
Like I said,
but
yeah,
got you. It just gets to a point where we have to get to a point. I got this thing that says stay out the trash. And staying out the trash is being in that spirit of familiarity where we're familiar with not forgiving. We're familiar with dealing with toxicity. We're familiar with whatever, but you got to get to a point where you want to become uncomfortable because the reason we go back for most point is because it's uncomfortable. I would ask God, deliver me from this, or people ask God, deliver me from that. And then when he starts to deliver us, then we get uncomfortable. Wait a minute, I don't recognize. It feels weird. So we go back to what we know is comfortable. And it's the toxic that so I just want to encourage you, my brother. I know that's not easy, but in order to do something you never had or have something you never had, you got to do something you never done. And
Right.
you have proven it to yourself that you can do it. You just got to want it.
True.
Yeah. And then after you forgive her, forgive yourself.
Makes sense. Respect that.
Forgive yourself. I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule because I know it's like what it's. I don't even know what time is this. I can't even see you. I got my glasses
7
on.
o'clock, 7:06.
So thank you so much.
I changed my whole schedule around just to do this for you.
Oh, thank you. And this is the second time. The first time we had so much complications. So I just thank you. That means a lot to me. I told my son, I'm going to have your friend on the show. So he was very excited. And like I said, all things happen for a reason. I'm a firm believer of that. I am a firm believer. You inspired me on so many levels. It's not even funny, but it keeps me motivated and it makes me more like, you know what, I can do it. And this year for 2024, I've decided in order to get the things I've never had, I got to do things I've never done. And so I'm just going to do like I've always done, close my eyes, hold my breath, and just jump.
Yeah.
That's it. And I'm just going to jump. And that's where I am right now. And so what's next for you?
Sky's the limit. I had somebody, I usually post almost every other week, but my daughters came to live with me permanently for a little while, so I kind of been just dealing with them a lot. Somebody hit me the other day, well, I haven't seen you on the internet, you haven't posted anything. You still selling your book? I said, I don't have to sell my book. My book sells itself.
Booyah. 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 Yeah. Booyah. And like I said, I do have copies, you all. So if you're interested in getting it, Mr. Darrington has graciously sent me free copies. So if you want it, definitely hit me up and DM me. You can do Facebook, you can do my Instagram, however you want to do it. Let me know.
I would truly appreciate it. Listen to me. The biggest form of advertisement ever is word of mouth. I tell you.
Yes.
Friend and multiply. We got to get the word out. It's really, really a good book. Give me the opportunity to blow your mind. Guarantee you will not regret it.
Guarantee. Awesome. Now we got the Karma Club, but what's next for you? I mean, because there's another book in the making. Have you thought about doing your
I got about 13 books I've got about 13 books I've been working on. Sometimes I get writer's block. I work on something else. Yeah. But I'm also writing a book about myself.
Nice. Now, when is the book about your testimony coming out? That's what I really want to know.
I'm still got a lot of life to live, so I'm still writing it. But I already started it. Matter of fact, I'm a post a portion of it probably in a couple of days.
Okay. Well, let me just say this. You're not going to be finished with your book. So, you got to get to a point. I mean, we don't want no big, thick book. We just don't. I just don't. I'm not going to read a big, thick book, but I will read some smaller books. So what I'm saying is, just from your childhood to up to after your, penitentiary and stuff like that, that's a book by itself, I'm just throwing out there now. I'm just saying, but I'm just saying there's so much that, because you love doing what you do, but I'm going to need that testimony book. That's what I'm waiting on. I'm going to need that testimony book. I'm going to need that. Not just me. It's quite a few people that need that testimony book because you by far have come against the odds through God's grace and mercy. And then having children seeds. I mean, breaking the generational cycle
Yes.
with your children. Whew. If you could leave any nuggets of wisdom, I know I asked you this earlier, but I asked for more than one reason, with people who are listening, going through, men, this is March, March Men Messenger Month. If you could drop nuggets to your brothers out there, incarcerated, abandonment, rejection, you know, I always tell people most people are incarcerated are the most misunderstood people. They don't need to be incarcerated, they just need to be helped,
Yeah.
for the most part, because there's a rooted issue. What nuggets could you pass to them?
Oof. Number one, get you a new set of friends. Prison is a revolving door. Sad but true. And you have some people that go to prison that's never coming home by choice, because they get caught up in the politics and the indoctrination of wanting to be about something.
Well, you know what? I'm thinking that he got stuck. Oh, he's where. Oh, okay, I can see you now.
Oh,
What was the last point that you made?
I said I never consider myself a role model, but I can tell you what not to do.
Mm.
And you start with your friends, people you hang out with, people you look up to, people you respect. You change those things, you might have a chance.
Mm. Mm. You gotta want it. You gotta want it. Like Les Brown said, you gotta be hungry for it. You gotta be hungry for change.
Yeah.
And only you
Change,
can.
change comes from within. No one can change you. Change comes from, you have to want to change. And you have to do it on your own, by yourself. Deal with them ups and downs, the crazy looks, and all that mumbling. You got to learn how to tune it out, ignore it, and just move to the side and out the way. You got a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Put your family first.
Mm.
The
And
street
when
should
you,
the street shouldn't even be in the lineup.
how about that? And when you say family, define family.
Your kids, your seed, your blood. I always say, well, like to my boys, to be a man, you got to see a man.
Mm. Mm. Wow.
Because a lot of young men grow up with all these feminine ways to where they can't handle pressure. They can't handle a fight when they run and go get a gun and end up in prison. You gotta know how to swallow your pride, be the bigger man, know how to walk away, don't let certain things and words get to you.
Mm. I love that. I love that. Well, there you have it, honey. So, if people wanted to reach out to you, I lost all of that earlier. How would they do that? Are you on social media?
Yes, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook as Lawerence Darrington. I'm on
That's okay with the technical difficulty. We see that on Facebook, he is Lawerence Darrington. And if you want to see him on IG, he's under the Karma Club Trilogy. That's correct?
correct.
Awesome. The Karma Club trilogy. And like I said before, you see it here live and direct. And I do have free copies that's been sent to me by Mr. Darrington himself about the Karma Club. If you want your free copy, please DM me. You can DM me at Fuchina Kirkendall. If you listen to on my YouTube live, if you're listening to YouTube right now, you can go to my Facebook, or better yet, you can email me at Fuchina KFO. Let me put my name on here. I guess I need to do that too. Let me take this off, and then you'll be able to see my name. You'll see my name, Fuchina Kirkendall. You could just email me, or better yet, let me do this even better than this, because I don't want any reason why people say they're not able to reach out to me. AFW.com. Okay, now let me put my glasses on to make sure that's correct. I'm older now. Under my eyes don't work the same. Yeah. Let's see. I'm glad I got them glasses on. Hold on a second. So I'm glad I got them glasses. Glad I got those glasses. Let's see. That was so wrong. Boom. There we go. Now, show it. All right. So you can always email me at fuchinak@chroniclesofafw.com. Like I said, I have copies here. So I'm looking forward to sending it out to you. Just give me your address. I'll be more than happy to mail it out. What can I say? The man. Yes. Oh, to God be the glory. You are just, whew, I'm just grateful that God just saw it fit to make this possible, because you all have heard some very phenomenal testimonies and stories throughout here. And like I told you, you will not be disappointed. I'm going to put you on the back end, and I'll be back to you in just a moment as I'm closing out the show. So with that being said, what more can I get? I mean, every Sunday it has been something different, something, oh gosh. Thank you. I just say thank you. And if you hadn't got anything out of it, I don't know. I mean, you might want to, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. But I just want to thank Mr. Lawerence Darrington for taking time out. First of all, he's on the West Coast, okay? And making time out for me to, to make this possible means a lot to me, and I don't take it lightly or for granted. So with that being said, if you have not liked and subscribed, I'm on YouTube. So I'm going to need you to like and subscribe on my channel. Everybody tell me I need to do it, y'all, and I'm sorry. I'm just not good at it, because I'm just into getting the story out. I'll be the first one to tell you. But if you have not gone to the channel, if you're tuned to the channel now and you like what you're hearing, you like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe and like the channel. I really appreciate that. On my YouTube, I'm also on Facebook. On Facebook and Instagram, I'm under Fuchina Kirkendall. I'm also under Chronicles of a Favorite Woman. On LinkedIn, I'm under Fuchina Kirkendall, as well as TikTok. I think I have everything, as well as TikTok as well. You all may find me. And before I leave, I cannot stop. I have to give a plug. God is awesome, because I am doing my very first event. It's called Trash Talk, and it comes from the scripture, 2 Peter 2nd chapter, 20th to 22nd verse. Please read it. But it's basically about the spirit of familiarity and how we repeat, how we get delivered, and we go right back. How we get delivered, we go right back. And that's what this is all about. It is going to be held on March 16th at Harveststone Apartment Clubhouse, 3825 Latson Road in Latson, South Carolina. Yes, I'm taking it back home first. So this is the first of many events that God has in store for me. And I'm so excited because I have two special guests, Miss Katrina McNeil and also Miss Shauna Anderson. Tickets are on sale and they are going. I am grateful. I'm totally grateful. I'm looking for a sold out event. We're looking at 50 tickets. I only have 50 seats available, and it will be brunch. So you know me, I'm from South Carolina, so it's going to be shrimp and grits. It's going to be chicken and waffles and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. Tickets are $50. If you find yourself in a situation, I do want to be a blessing for those who are unable to do it. So definitely DM me. It's really about the word and the message that's coming out, and I don't want that to be a factor for you not to be able to attend to receive it. So, with that being said, I also have a special panel guest for this. But in the meantime, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I love you, but God loves you more. Be blessed. Mwah.